He used my gaming account for years and I finally snapped. Was I wrong to just delete everything? Fortnite. That one word. That one absolutely everywhere, inescapable, chaotic game full of kids in colorful outfits doing dances. That was the thing that finally broke him. Not a big dramatic falling out, not some massive family fight. Just Fortnite, sitting at the top of his Nintendo profile, mocking him with all those hours he never actually played. And the moment he saw it sitting there, #1 most played, he knew something had to change. So let's talk about it. Our guy is 21 years old, working hard, living his life, and sharing a family Nintendo Switch with his 13-year-old little brother. Now right off the bat, that setup sounds fine in theory. It is a shared family console, and sharing is caring and all of that. But there is a very specific and very important detail here that flips the whole situation on its head, and that detail is that our guy's personal Nintendo account, the one attached to his personal email, the one that holds his gaming history and his online identity, that is the account his little brother has been using for years as if it were his own. Not a separate profile. Not his own account. His older brother's account. And that is where things start to get complicated. Let me set the scene for you properly. You come home after a long day, tired, maybe a little checked out, just wanting to decompress. And there is your brother on the couch, comfortable, settled in, controller in hand, completely at ease, logged into your profile, playing Fortnite with a bunch of kids you have never met and never want to meet. The TV is loud with those familiar sound effects, the building, the shooting, the emotes. And you look at the screen and you see your username, your account name, sitting there in the corner like it belongs to him. Your friend request list is full of 13-year-olds with usernames like xDragonSlayer99XX. Your gaming history now reads like you are a competitive Fortnite player. And your carefully curated sense of online gaming identity, the one you built over years of actually choosing games that meant something to you, has been slowly and quietly replaced by a middle schooler's social life. That is the reality this guy has been living with for quite some time, and honestly, just hearing it described that way, you can already feel the slow simmer of that frustration. It builds the way that kind of thing always builds. Not in one big moment. In 100 small ones. Now to be fair to the brother, he was 13. He was just a kid doing what kids do, which is using whatever is available to them without fully thinking through the impact it has on other people. He probably never sat down and thought to himself, I am going to colonize my older brother's digital identity. He just saw a console, saw a profile that was already set up and ready to go, and used it. That is not malicious. That is just being 13. Kids at that age have a remarkable ability to treat shared resources as personal property without even noticing they are doing it. But here is the thing about doing something that bothers someone else for long enough, eventually the patience runs out. And for our guy, it ran out somewhere between watching Fortnite hit the top spot on his most played list and seeing a bunch of strangers on his friends list. The most played hours thing is something I want to sit with for a second because I think it actually explains a lot about why this finally boiled over. It is not just about the embarrassment of it, though let's be real, that is part of it. Nobody who plays actual games wants their profile to announce to the world that their top title is Fortnite. But it goes deeper than that. It is about the fact that your gaming profile is a little snapshot of who you are as a player. What you care about, what you have sunk your time into, what games have meant something to you over the years. It is a record. A quiet autobiography written in playtime hours and completion percentages. And when someone else lives on your profile and fills it up with their hours and their games and their choices and their data, it starts to feel like your identity has been overwritten. Like the record of your hobby no longer belongs to you. Like you are a guest in your own account. That is a surprisingly personal thing to have taken away, even if it was done without any bad intention whatsoever. And then came the friends list. Oh, the friends list. This might actually be the detail that pushed everything over the edge, because this is not just an abstract thing about gaming hours on a statistics screen. These are actual strangers, actual children, sitting on his personal Nintendo account, able to see his activity, able to see when he is online, able to send him messages, connected to him online in a way he never agreed to and never would have agreed to. He does not know these kids. He did not add them. He has no idea how old they are, what they are like, or what conversations they have been having under his name. And he cannot even vet them because he has no idea who they are or where they came from. From a privacy standpoint alone, that is already a problem. From a personal space standpoint, it is completely understandable that he wanted them gone. Yeah, no. Strange children on my personal account? That alone would have been enough for me. That alone. So he made a decision. He sat down, went through the steps, and unlinked his account from the Switch. He removed his profile from the family console. And suddenly his little brother can no longer access the Fortnite data he had been building up on someone else's account, on someone else's name, on someone else's digital real estate. The skins, the cars, the accessories, the cosmetics, all the little digital trophies he had accumulated over months of play. All of it now locked behind a profile that no longer belongs to the family console. And the brother is upset. Genuinely upset. You can picture it. The moment he goes to load the game and the profile is just gone. The confusion first, then the realization, then the frustration hitting all at once. Because from his perspective, he has lost stuff. Stuff he worked for in the game. Stuff he spent real time on. Stuff that felt like his, even though the account it was saved on was never actually his. Now here is where I want to be careful, because the brother's feelings are also valid within their own context. Losing gaming progress genuinely does feel bad, especially at 13 when those things feel enormous and important and real in a way that adults sometimes forget they once felt too. The skins matter. The cars matter. The time invested matters. I am not going to dismiss that. But here is the thing. None of that progress was ever on his account. It was always on borrowed time, on borrowed space, on a profile that he was never supposed to be using as his primary account in the first place. The foundation was always unstable. He was building something on land that was never his, and at some point the owner was always going to come back. The loss he is feeling is real, but the expectation that he was entitled to keep using that account forever was always the problem underneath it all. And our guy even tried to explain this. He did not just pull the account and walk away without a word. He sat down and walked his brother through it. He pointed out, calmly and reasonably, that Fortnite resets your XP and levels every single season anyway. Every few months the slate gets wiped and everybody grinds from zero again, no matter what account they are on. That part is universal. That part was never going anywhere regardless. So the progress that is truly gone, the stuff that cannot come back through normal gameplay, is only the cosmetic stuff. The skins and the vehicles and the accessories. The items you collect as decorations rather than as gameplay advantages. And yes, some of those things are genuinely hard to get back. The DeLorean, the mystery machine, the stuff that cycles in and out of the shop on its own unpredictable schedule without announcement or warning. I genuinely understand why losing access to those things would sting. That is real, and I will not pretend otherwise. But the solution to that was always the same simple thing. Make your own account. That is the part that really gets me. The brother refused to make his own Nintendo account. That was the offer on the table. A completely free option, available to anyone with an email address. Make your own account, start fresh, play your own games, build your own profile, own your own history. That is a completely reasonable and actually generous solution because it means he can keep playing, keep progressing, keep building toward whatever he wants in the game. He just has to do it on his own terms instead of his brother's. And the brother said no. He did not want a fresh start. He wanted to keep using his older brother's space indefinitely, as if that were something he was simply owed, as if the years of borrowing had quietly transformed into a right. And at that point, I think any reasonable person has to acknowledge that the older brother had every right to do exactly what he did. But there is a layer underneath all of this that I think is the most important part of the whole story. Our guy mentions it almost in passing, like he is not even sure he wants to open that door, but it is actually the emotional core of everything. He says that in his family, he has always been expected to think about others first. To consider other people's feelings before his own. To let things slide when they bother him. To coddle. To absorb. To be the one who bends so others do not have to. He is the older one. He is the more mature one. He is the one who is supposed to know better and act better and give more. And he says there are years of family dynamics underneath all of that, things he does not even want to get into fully. Patterns and expectations that go back further than this Nintendo Switch, that have built up into this quiet, heavy exhaustion with always being the accommodating one. The one who makes room. The one who sacrifices. The one who is just supposed to be fine. And this moment, this one small and technically uncomplicated act of removing his own account from a shared console, this was him finally deciding that he is allowed to be selfish sometimes. That his things are allowed to be his things. That his space is allowed to be his space. That he does not have to keep shrinking to make room. That hit different. There is something really quietly powerful about recognizing that you have spent years making yourself smaller so that other people could feel more comfortable, and then deciding that today is the day you stop. It does not have to be a dramatic declaration. It does not have to be a speech or a confrontation or a big emotional moment that everyone witnesses. Sometimes it is just unlinking your Nintendo account and sitting with the strange, unfamiliar feeling of having done something purely for yourself. Sometimes the act of reclaiming your own stuff, even something as small and specific as your gaming profile, is the first step toward reclaiming yourself. And sometimes the people around you will not understand it, and they will call it selfish, and that discomfort is exactly the point. The scale of the action does not determine the weight of what it means. Now let's talk about what he actually did and whether it crosses any line. He removed his own account from a shared family console. That is it. That is the whole action. No screaming match, no revenge plot, no scorched earth. He went into the settings, he did the thing, and it was done. He did not destroy anything. He did not delete his brother's saved data because his brother did not have his own saved data to delete. All of that data lived on a profile that was never the brother's to begin with, which means the only thing that disappeared was the illusion that it ever was. He simply stopped allowing his personal account to be used by someone else. He took back something that was always his. There is no version of that story where he is the bad guy. What would have been unreasonable is if he had gone out of his way to hurt his brother in the process. If he had deleted the account entirely to take the data with him out of spite. If he had reported the account as compromised or done something deliberately destructive. If he had refused to let his brother use the Switch at all going forward. Any of those things would have been a step too far. He did none of those things. He made the minimum necessary move to reclaim his own property. He just stopped sharing his personal account. The brother can still use the Switch. The brother can still play Fortnite. He just needs to do it on his own account like every other person who plays Fortnite does. Okay. Let me land this one clearly because I think it deserves a firm verdict. Our guy is not the bad guy here. Not even close. He let this go on far longer than he needed to, probably because of those years of family conditioning that taught him his needs come last. The moment he decided his account was his account, he was right. The moment he said enough is enough, he was right. The brother is upset, and that is okay, but upset does not mean wronged. He was never entitled to that account. He was never supposed to be building his gaming identity on someone else's profile. The solution has always been one simple step away, and he refused to take it. The real story here is not about Fortnite skins. It is about a 21-year-old who finally decided that some things are allowed to be just his. And honestly? Good for him. Not everything has to be shared. Not everything has to be sacrificed. Your account, your profile, your choice. Full stop. Dad left half his fortune to my estranged brother, and I can't stop feeling betrayed by a dead man. He spent 4 years of his life driving his dying father to doctor's appointments, turning down promotions, rearranging his entire existence around being the son who showed up. And then the will was read. And his brother, the one who cussed out their father in the hospital room and walked out, got exactly the same share. Half. 50%. Equal. As if none of it had ever happened. Let's start from the beginning, because the context here is everything. Our guy has a brother. And this brother was not just difficult growing up, he was a full-scale, ongoing disaster. Getting into trouble constantly. Picking fights. Being disrespectful to everyone around him, to teachers, to neighbors, to extended family, to anyone who crossed his path and made the mistake of expecting basic decency. Unmanageable to such a degree that their parents eventually sent him to boarding school just to get some peace in the house, just to have a few hours in their own home without bracing for the next explosion. And even that did not fix things. Because the behavior was not a phase. It was a pattern. It was who he had decided to be. When the brother grew up, or at least aged into adulthood, things did not improve in any meaningful way. He became the kind of adult who only showed up when he needed money, when he had burned through whatever he had and needed someone to bail him out again. When he was around, he treated his own parents like they were there to serve him, like their home was a resource to drain rather than a place that belonged to people he was supposed to love. He berated them over small things. He threw tantrums well into his 30s. Into his actual 30s. We are not talking about a young man still figuring himself out, still learning how to regulate himself and treat people with care. We are talking about a grown adult who chose, repeatedly and deliberately, to treat his family with contempt every single time they loved him enough to let him back through the door. And the parents endured this for years. For a very long time they tried to maintain some kind of relationship with him, the way parents do, holding on with both hands because he is their child, and you do not stop loving your child even when they make you miserable, even when every visit ends in shouting and every phone call costs you something. There is a specific kind of exhausting hope that only parents carry, this belief that maybe this time will be different, maybe something has shifted, maybe the version of him they always believed was in there will finally show up. But eventually it got to the point where there was a 6-year period, 6 full years, where the parents had absolutely no contact with him at all. That is not a minor falling out over a holiday argument. That is a relationship so damaged, so thoroughly and repeatedly broken, that it essentially ceased to exist. 6 years of silence from your own child. That is a grief most people will never fully understand. Meanwhile, our guy was there. Always there. Being the son who was expected to be good, expected to behave, expected to fill in the space his brother left empty and then some. And for the most part, he did. He showed up. He was responsible. He was present. He probably rarely got credit for any of it because when you are the stable one, the reliable one, your reliability becomes invisible. People only notice the one who causes chaos. The one who keeps the peace just becomes the background. Then the mom passed away. And the estranged brother did not even reach out to check on their father. Not a call. Not a message. Nothing. While our guy single-handedly helped plan the funeral, while he made arrangements and fielded phone calls and held his father up through the worst kind of loss a person can experience, while he carried that grief and that logistical burden entirely by himself, his brother was somewhere else entirely, too wrapped up in his own life to send so much as a text. Picture that for a moment. Your mother dies. Your father is alone and devastated. And your sibling cannot be bothered to pick up the phone. That detail alone tells you everything you need to know about who this person is. Wow. He could not even send a text. A single text. That is a level of coldness that takes real effort. And then the father got sick. And what did our guy do? He moved. He packed up his life, said goodbye to whatever routines and relationships and professional momentum he had built for himself, and moved from across the country back home to take care of his father full-time. For years of doctor's appointments, of waiting rooms and prescription pickups and conversations with nurses and specialists. For years of showing up, sometimes when he was tired, sometimes when he was scared, sometimes when he probably had no idea how he was going to keep doing it and did it anyway. For years of being flexible, of being available at hours that did not suit him, of putting someone else's needs before his own comfort, before his own future. He turned down promotions. Real opportunities, the kind that do not come back around, the kind that you spend years positioning yourself for and then have to watch pass by because you made a choice about what mattered more. He let them go because taking them would have meant losing the flexibility he needed to be there, truly there, for his dad. That is not a small sacrifice made on a good day. That is years of your life, quietly redirected, because you looked at someone you loved and decided he was more important than your ambitions. And through all of that, the brother was still gone. Still absent. Still nowhere. Then something happened that I think reveals something quietly heartbreaking about the father. When he was nearing the end of his life, when he could feel time narrowing and knew the things left unsaid were running out of room, he reached out to the estranged brother. He tried to make amends. He wanted his family whole before he died, or at least wanted to know he had tried, that he had extended his hand one more time regardless of what had come before. And the brother actually came back. He came home. And for a moment, maybe, there was a possibility of something real. Of some kind of peace, fragile as it might have been. Of some kind of resolution that would let everyone breathe a little easier. But it did not take long before the brother did exactly what the brother always did. He started another fight. He cussed out his dying father, a man in a hospital bed who had reached out with nothing but love and an open hand, and he walked out of the hospital room. Let that sink in. He walked out of the hospital room. Of his dying father. After the man reached out with nothing but love and a desire to make things right. He still walked out. And then the father passed. And the will was revealed. And it split everything, the entire estate, well over $10 million, directly down the middle. Equal shares. One for the son who spent 4 years by his side. One for the son who walked out of the hospital room. I genuinely had to take a second after reading that. I genuinely did. Now let's talk about what our guy is actually feeling, because he is careful to say this is not about the money. And I believe him. Largely because the resentment he is describing is not about wanting more dollars, not about tallying up the hours he spent in waiting rooms and converting them into a dollar figure. It is about what the equal split represents. It is about what it communicates. When you leave equal shares to 2 children who did not play equal roles, who did not show up with anything resembling equal effort or equal love or equal sacrifice, you are making a statement, whether you intend to or not. You are saying that in your final accounting of your life and your relationships, these 2 people are the same to you. Equal. Equivalent. And for someone who gave 4 years of his life and turned down career opportunities and moved across the country and showed up every single day through every hard and exhausting and grief-soaked moment of those years, hearing that he and his brother are equals in his father's eyes, that is devastating. That is not about money. That is about recognition. That is about being seen. And the will denied him that recognition completely. The complicated thing here, and the thing that makes this story genuinely painful rather than just frustrating, is that the father was clearly acting from a place of love. He reached out to his estranged son at the end of his life. He tried to reconcile. He clearly had not given up on that relationship, even after everything, even after the 6 years of silence and the tantrums and the cussing and the walking out. He still loved that boy. He probably always had. And leaving an equal share in the will was probably his way of extending one final olive branch, one final act of hope toward a son he had been trying to reach for decades. That is not a cruel act. That is a grieving parent trying to leave the world with his family intact, or at least with the possibility of it, with one last gesture that said I never stopped trying. But here is the thing. Good intentions do not erase the impact. The father had every right to make his own choices with his estate. It was his money, his will, his decision. No one is disputing that. But our guy also has every right to feel what he feels. You can understand where someone's decision came from and still be hurt by it. You can know that your father loved you and still feel unseen by the way he chose to express that love in his final act. Both things can be true at the same time. The father was not wrong for making that choice. And our guy is not wrong for feeling the weight of it. Here is where I land on this, and I want to be clear and direct about it. Our guy is not an asshole for feeling resentful. What he is feeling is one of the most human and understandable emotional responses possible. He gave everything. He showed up every day for years. He sacrificed real things, real opportunities, real pieces of his own life, to be there for his family. And the final message from his father did not acknowledge any of that difference. It treated years of devotion and years of abandonment as morally equivalent. Of course that stings. Of course that leaves a mark. The resentment is not a character flaw. It is grief. It is the specific grief of someone who poured themselves into a relationship and then had to watch that love be distributed equally to someone who hurt everyone around him without remorse. That kind of pain does not have a clean resolution. It does not go away just because you intellectually understand why the decision was made. What I hope for him is this: that over time he is able to separate the inheritance from the love. That he comes to understand that the money was his father's final complicated attempt at peace, not a verdict on who was the better son. His father knew who showed up. His father knew who held his hand at the end. No piece of paper changes that. The relationship he had with his father was real and it was built over years of presence and love, and his brother does not get to inherit that no matter what the will says. Some things cannot be split down the middle. He gave 4 years of his life and got a bank account. His brother gave nothing and got the same bank account. But our guy also got something his brother will never have. He got to be there. He got to know he did everything right. And that matters more than any number on a document. It just might take a while before that truth feels like enough. Drop a comment and let me know which one hit harder for you. And if you made it all the way here, a like and subscribe would mean a lot.